Okay, today is the 25th of September 2025. So I want to go through the UN. This is the 80th kind of meeting, General Assembly, 80th session of the General Assembly. Then I wanted to talk about, just comment on the words of Natasa Pirc Musar. Natasa Pirc Musar. Okay. She's the president of Slovenia. Slovenia is just a small country in Europe, one of the smallest countries, etc. Let's say what it has to say.
An address by Her Excellency Natasa Pirc Musar, the President of the Republic of Slovenia. I request protocol to escort Her Excellency and invite her to address the Assembly.
Madam President, please accept my warmest congratulations on your election at this historic 80th anniversary of the United Nations. Your election underscores the vital importance of including women in decision-making process. Ladies and gentlemen, Excellencies, in 1945, the end of the Second World War was greeted with celebrations and hopes were placed.
Okay, women inclusion. The patriarchy exists. The point of the patriarchy, according with an Excellency something, Slovenian philosopher, she says very clearly, the point of patriarchy is to define what is a woman. That's it, full stop. It's mind-blowing, that definition, because that's the patriarchy. Yeah, well, when Trump came to office, one of the first things that he did was to say what is a woman, what is a man. Immediately after that order was issued, my bosses changed and my voices became very derogative to women, especially in anything related sexually, in anything of memories, in anything that relates to domination, in anything that is related with seeing a woman, being next to a woman. It was just like that. After he was in power, it was elected, it just changed like that. So I can notice that there is a relationship of what's going on with me and the policy of the United States and whatever is happening in the United States.
Based in a new era of peace and cooperation, embodied by the creation of the United Nations. However, those hopes were soon overshadowed by the onset of the Cold War. When it ended in 1991, we once again dared to believe that this would pave the way to the vision of lasting peace, security and cooperation as enshrined in the UN Charter. Sadly, that vision has not materialized. In fact, the situation has worsened, and here is why. Firstly, the Security Council, envisioned as the very pillar of collective security, is failing to meet the expectations of the world, if it ever has. The Permanent Five were supposed to be role models for the rest of the world working for peace. Some work in their own interests instead. Secondly, the promise of the Sustainable Development Goals is faltering. Progress is lagging, and with cuts in development assistance, millions of the world's poorest are pushed further away from the access to even the most basic services. Thirdly, international law.
Hey, also when I say that there is a kind of relationship with how the women is defined in the United States and what happened to me, it not necessarily has to be connected. We have to think about the nature of this technology that can be very deceiving, just as a reminder.
Appears to stand at the precipice of irrelevance. The independence of elected international judges, the integrity of human rights institutions, personal security of human rights defenders, and the authority of this organization are under siege. Fourthly, the Genocide Convention risks becoming a relic of the past. Some states have put the International Criminal Court to its greatest challenge ever. Its prosecutors, whose only duty is the pursuit of justice, and its judges, whose responsibility is to uphold the law, our international law, now face sanctions and intimidation. As if the states that sanction them would prefer to shield the alleged perpetrators of atrocities rather than confront the truth and international law, now face sanctions and intimidation. A challenge ever. Its prosecutors, whose only duty is the pursuit of justice, and its judges, whose responsibility is to uphold the law, our international law, now face sanctions and intimidation.
Okay, this is very brave to say. I have not heard the other leaders, but look, related with nuclear weapons, no one dares to talk to that. It looks super dystopic. And there are a few leaders that can refer to that maybe because they are not abusing of this technology. I suppose, by logic, if I'm allowed to use this technology in a way in which in the future I will be blackmailed, then I will not talk about that technology and I will accept the fate because my master has decided. But some people like me is able to talk in this way because I've not done anything wrong. If they tell you that I have done anything wrong, we need the proof. Because that's one of my advantages, that I cannot be blackmailed. And that's why they have attacked my family. And that's why they have attacked people who are nearby me, but doesn't even know that they have been attacked. Now, if people in Slovenia is being coerced, this technology can coerce one by one. Personally, let's say they could take one person, use the techniques that I have described that they use against me in one single person, just to strike, let's say, one diplomat to take some decision making, one functionary, one agent, one by one. Yeah, so they can do it granularly. So that's why this technology has to come up openly, but no one is talking about this because it looks dystopic, and most of these people is over 40, over 30. But look, for a kid right now, 10 years old, when they are teenagers, this should come out already. They will be living in the age of AI, and it won't be a mystery. So it's more about a taboo, a political taboo. Yeah, nuclear weapons is a political taboo. Okay?
As if the states that sanction them would prefer to shield the alleged perpetrators of atrocities rather than confront the truth and help deliver justice. Fifthly, the landmark opinion of the International Court of Justice affirming that international law obliges states to prevent harming the climate already feels obsolete. And finally, states are withdrawing from the Paris Climate Agreement, from the Ottawa Treaty, and from the UN agencies, or simply cutting their finances. Each such act chips away at the support for multilateralism, a system designed not for the powerful few, but for the benefit of all of us. Madam President, how are we to explain these trends to our electorates, to our people, and above all, to our children? Shall we tell them that this is the new normal, that might makes right, that the strong may seize what they want because they can, that they can kill with impunity because they can, that they may pollute, wage wars, and trample on international law just because they can?
That's exactly how it feels like. Okay? It feels that they can do that just because they can, simply. Yeah? They can do it simply because they are powerful, they are the hammer, they just do it. Because it is a system of domination, not a system of reasoning, not a system of values. Domination is the main value. In the hierarchy of values, domination comes to be the main value overall. That's not how United States was founded. I don't know if that's United States. I don't know. But, recently we have seen a lot of things related with the we have been seeing, or I know that this technology has been used especially to change and homogenize the people, and is being used. Let's say this black guy who assassinated the Ukrainian refugee, is likely that that guy being not educated, not having also some mental health problems, and not having a good past, not coming from a good family, not having much emotional intelligence, he was very vulnerable to do such violent attack. Yeah. Now, this is Anna Arendt, responsibility and judgment, and she talks about in the United States not being a government that will sacrifice diversity for homogenization as tyrannies just to go to war. That's what she says here. But United States could end up in that place. She also talks about that. Yeah. She talks about there is an interesting paragraph. The idea that when the chips were down, diversity must be sacrificed to the union sacrée, it's in French, the sacred union of the nation, once the greatest triumph of the assimilatory power of the dominant ethnic group only has begun to crumble under the pressure of threatening transformation of all government. Right now, United States is going through that pressure. The government of the United States, not excluded into bureaucracies, the rule of either law or men, but the anonymous officers of computers whose entirely depersonalization domination might turn out to be a greater threat to freedom and to a minimum of civility, without which no communal life is conceivable, than the most outrageous arbitrariness of past tyrannies has ever been. So the possibility of having a cybernetic society bring homogenization, for which diversity is sacrificed, then threatening the government itself, because finish in tyranny, and we are there. Okay. Let's keep going.
Are we prepared to look our children in the eyes and say, this is the world you will inherit and there is nothing we can do about it? With the adoption of the Pact for the Future last year, we have charted a path toward a stronger...
I'm gonna look at my kids and I'm gonna tell them, that's right. Everything seems dystopic. People do not dare. People who have children, they think that they shouldn't gonna be just kill because they say one thing. They're gonna be afraid eventually because they're gonna be threatened. And now the threatening is mechanized. The threatening is powered by AI. The threatening is just the collection, modification, the perfection of inflicting fear. So then everyone is afraid, everyone is in fear. And as soon as you will do some, because as that will work in a way in which as soon as you start to be critical, the system has not a feedback loop to include that criticism, then you start to be isolated.
More forward-looking United Nations. But we must now create the conditions to fulfill our commitments. One way forward is to establish a permanent advocacy network to give the pact unconditional, sustained political support. To this end, I propose the creation of a global forum for the future, an inclusive movement of states committed to multilateralism, mutual respect, and
Multilateralism, okay, because United States, it says, if you are against me, if you are not with me, you are against me. Yeah, multilateralism is more like, I understand who you are, I know that you are other, I acknowledge your otherness, I see you like in Avatar, it's like I recognize you, I recognize that you are a person with your problems, with your merits, with your success and your failures, and I accept you as you are. Multilateralism is like that. Okay, it's more like I'm talking with you and only with you, and we agree something because this is a one-way relationship. It's not like if you don't negotiate with me, you are against me. I'm sorry, and you have to be my only. You have to. You cannot be. You cannot have more allies over me. Yeah, you are. I should be your main ally. Otherwise, you're gonna be screwed. That was the formula of the United States, and it's crumbled. It's easier to negotiate with China. It's easy to be respected by China. It's easy to do multilateral relationships with China. And that hurts because the United States is supposed to be the beacon of democracy, of freedom, and it's not. So it's terrifying. It's terrifying if the United States falls because Europe cannot hold itself. And the United States is attacking Europe. And that's what she's saying. What are we gonna do? We have to face these evils, all right?
and the defense of our shared vision. A movement determined to stand up for the pact and drive its implementation at every level. As states consider how to implement the pact for the future, some solutions may be seen as inconvenient today, but in the long run, ladies and gentlemen, they are not optional. They are systemically necessary. The first example is the reform of the Security Council. We all recognize that it
On this, the Security Council was created by those who won the war, have nuclear weapons, or were too powerful. Yeah. Then we have France, US, UK, China, and what used to be the Soviet Union that became Russia. Yeah. That was the permanent Security Council. They have the right to veto. The right to veto is say that I don't agree, and then nothing goes forward. That's not democracy. United States and Israel, they vote no to the right of food. Why? Because the siege that is happening in Gaza, because they knew that they're gonna starve that people to death as a kind of war strategy. That is a genocide. Now, because they were able to technically, well, it was not one person, but United States could have vetoed that alone. And the veto is not democracy. Is the opposite. Now, Elon Musk says as well that it is incredible that India is not in the main Security Council, in the Security Council of the UN, and it makes sense. Okay, so nuclear power is huge. The population of India is very young, and India is a rising power, and India plays a hell important role in the world because it's not just a broker of power. It's a country that, well, I talk about China, India and China's border, I think, in another video, but is a country that is close to Russia, close to China, close to other nuclear powers. So India has a kind of Austria role in the neutrality or something like that. It was one of the countries that follow as well this movement of neutrality during the Second World War. So it is an important negotiator as well. Something to keep in mind. And the nature of keeping India together is as well mind-blowing. So yeah, it's a very important political player that deserves to be in the Security Council. But that doesn't fix the things alone. But that's something that Elon Musk says that is mind-blowing obvious.
Is the principal organ entrusted with the maintenance of international peace and security. But what it is not, and must never be, is a body that stands above international law to defend the interests of some at the expense of others.
On that, I feel that I'm being a slave. They are taking my memories, they are taking... it feels that companies, training models, doing experiments. That's slavery. What I'm getting back. What my mother, who gave everything for me, is getting back. She's just getting older and with sadness of thinking that his son has schizophrenia, but it's a fake diagnosis. All right, let's keep going.
Kogan's norms must be safeguarded as a matter of principle. If the prohibitions against genocide and crimes against humanity are accepted as Jus Kogan's norms, can any permanent member claim a legitimate veto right in such circumstances? Member states have attempted to address this question through many reform proposals, but with minimal progress. This is why we must dare to go further now. We, the General Assembly, must take a bold step and request an advisory opinion from the International Court of Justice on this very question. Second, we must confront the gap between our words and actions on gender equity. Progress has been made, but far too modestly. Over the past 80 years, 13% of leaders in multilateral organizations have been women, and no woman has ever served as Secretary General of the United Nations.
No woman has ever served.
And this, ladies and gentlemen, must change. So...
yeah, it must. Okay. Quotes are important. Quotes is the first solution. Quotes of women is the first solution. At some stage, you will have 60% women, 40% men. Other times, you will have 40% women, 60% men, or whatever, how they identify, whatever. but then you will have a sweet spot in which that will fluctuate, coming and going, and then it will become normal to be exigent and to demand that the quotes reach, because it is the normality to have that balance. Quotes, the quotes of having certain minimum percentage inside is a kind of ignition method for this to be corrected.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, let us make history. Today, the 80th session of the General Assembly is led by only the 5th woman to hold the presidency. By the end of this session, she would be joined by a Madam Secretary General-elect, a living proof to 4 billion women that even the most impossible job is not beyond their reach. But gender representation is not enough. What we must achieve is actual gender equity, because it benefits not only women and girls, but entire societies. True equity requires systemic change, and so women's empowerment must remain at the heart of our global agenda.
And that's why isn't so dangerous, this agenda of Trump of defining what is a woman? Because we are talking about Trump defining what is a woman for the world. United States social media, United States movies, United States television, United States, any means of propaganda, yeah, defining that. Because one president wants, and he's making a war. I mean, it is illogical that all these shootings will be generated by only trans people. Any decent statistician will say this is not normal. This is obviously alterated. There is a correlation. Actually, it is possible to prove causation and correlation of intention of, let's say, the steering or the pushing or the kind of manipulation of trans people doing that. It might be statistically possible to prove that, but it is obvious that they are using these neural weapons to define precisely the agenda of what is to be a woman. Okay, I think I'm gonna leave it there just because I have things to do, but we're gonna make another video.